Okay, so imagine this scenario with me for a second.
All right.
You are standing in the driveway of a classic colonial in Hartford. It's a beautiful house, good bones, great curb appeal, but the roof has seen better days.
Mhm.
You know it's time. So you do the responsible thing, you call around for quotes. The first one lands in your inbox, $12,000.
Okay.
You look at it and you think, okay, that hurts, but I can swing it. That's the price of homeownership.
Like, that's the optimistic phase of the project.
Exactly. But then the second quote arrives, and it's $25,000.
Wow.
And the third is somewhere in the middle, but it's got all these line items for things like wetlands review and frost protection.
Which is usually enough to give a homeowner whiplash.
It really is. I
Right.
mean, let's look at this logically. We are talking about the exact same house,
Same square footage.
the exact same shingles. How on earth can the price tag double just depending on who picks up the phone? It feels like someone is just throwing darts at a board.
It definitely feels that way to the consumer. But when you actually dig into the data and the building codes, there is a method to the madness. Or, more accurately, there's a very specific Connecticut reality that explains that gap.
So today we are unpacking the mystery of this Connecticut premium.
Exactly. The mission for this deep dive is to equip you, the listener, to look at those three wildly different quotes and figure out which one is transparent, which one is an honest bid.
And which one is a trap?
Right. Which one is a trap that's going to hit you with 5 different change orders halfway through the job? Because in Connecticut, you aren't just paying for shingles and nails.
You're paying for what?
You are paying for geography and bureaucracy.
Geography and bureaucracy. That sounds like the title of a college course I would have dropped in the first week.
It sounds dry, I know, but stick with me because this is what drains your bank account. We're going to talk about the 42-inch frost line, why looking up national average roof cost on Google is, well, it's completely useless if you live in New England.
And you mentioned something called spite access. I saw that in the notes. I honestly thought that was a typo or a joke.
Oh, it's very real. And it can effectively double your labor costs if you aren't careful.
Okay, well, let's start with the environment. I think most people assume it's Connecticut, it gets cold, but is it really that much different from, say, Pennsylvania or Ohio?
It comes down to a specific classification,
Which is?
Climate Zone 5A.
Zone 5A? Sounds like a sector in a sci-fi movie.
It basically means we aren't just dealing with cold, we're dealing with a distinct, aggressive freeze-thaw cycle.
So it's not just that it gets cold and stays cold.
Exactly. It fluctuates.
Yeah.
It rains, it freezes, it thaws, it rains again. That fluctuation is brutal on building materials. But the number you really need to know, the number that dictates the bottom line of your quote, is 42 inches.
42 inches, that's the frost line.
That is the frost line. In Connecticut, the ground effectively freezes to a depth of 42 inches.
Okay, play devil's advocate for me here. We're replacing a roof. That's at the absolute top of the house. Why am I paying a roofer to worry about the dirt 3.5 feet underground?
That is the classic disconnect. It all comes down to structural tie-ins.
Like what?
Think about your front porch, or a sunroom, or a dormer that ties into the main roof line. In a lot of older Connecticut homes, those structures were built on shallow footings.
So they don't go down the full 42 inches.
Exactly. So when the ground freezes, the water in the soil expands. It pushes up. It heaves that porch up. Now, if your porch moves 2 inches up, but your main house stays still because it has a proper basement,
Oh, I see. What happens to the roof connecting them?
it tears it apart. It rips the flashing right out, breaks the seal. So when you see a roofing quote that includes excavation or footing work, that's not a contractor trying to upsell you.
That's them being thorough.
That is them saying, I need to dig 42 inches down to stabilize this porch before I can flash it to the house.
And the guy quoting $12,000.
He is likely ignoring it. He's going to slap new shingles over the old unstable structure. It will look beautiful in July.
But come January.
Come January, the ground heaves, the seam rips, and you have water in your foyer.
Okay, so that's the ground. What about the roof itself? I read something in the research about an ice barrier rule that sounded, honestly, it sounded like overkill.
It sounds like overkill until you've had an ice dam. The code in Connecticut is very specific.
Yeah.
You must install an ice and water shield, which is a heavy-duty self-sealing underlayment that extends 24 inches inside the exterior wall line.
Wait, inside the wall line as in projected into the living space?
Projected into the house's footprint, yes. It's not enough to just go to the edge of the roof. or the gutters. It has to go up the roof far enough that it's actually 2 feet past where the heated living space begins.
And what's the logic there? Why the extra 2 feet?
Thermodynamics. Heat escapes your house,
Wow.
especially in those older colonials with poor attic insulation. That escaping heat melts the snow on the roof. That water runs down to the eaves.
And the eaves are cold because they aren't over the house.
Correct. So the water hits the cold eaves and refreezes. That forms a dam of ice.
And the water backs up.
It backs up, it forms a pool.
Yeah.
And because it's pooled, it defies gravity. It travels up and under the shingles.
So if you just have standard felt paper there.
Water goes right through the nail holes and into your drywall.
So this shield is basically a gasket.
Exactly. It's a rubberized membrane that seals around the shaft of the nail. But here is the cost impact. To get that 24-inch interior coverage, especially on a roof with a steep pitch or large overhangs, you usually need 2 or even 3 rows of this material.
And I'm guessing this isn't cheap stuff.
It is premium material. In the South, they might use a cheap synthetic felt for the whole roof. In Connecticut, you're covering a huge percentage of the deck and this expensive rubberized shield. That boosts your prep material cost by 10 to 20% right out of the gate.
And I assume the wind plays a role here too. We do get those nor'easters.
We do. NOAA Zone 5A winters mean higher wind loads. This dictates the fasteners, the nails. You can't use the standard 4 nails per shingle that might fly in a calm area. You're often doing 6 nails.
Which sounds minor. It's just 2 extra nails.
It sounds minor until you multiply it by, 8,000 shingles? That's 16,000 extra nails. That's extra labor time to drive them. It's extra boxes of fasteners. It is all incremental. But it all adds up to that Connecticut premium.
Okay, so that explains the climate drivers. But you mentioned geography earlier, and specifically bureaucracy related to geography.
Right. This is where geology meets red tape, especially if you look at Fairfield and Litchfield counties. We have a lot of hills, rock ledges, and crucially wetlands.
Wetlands. This is where the town gets involved.
This is where the 100, 200-foot rule kicks in.
Yeah.
In Connecticut, if your home is within that distance of a designated wetland, and in wooded or coastal CT, that is extremely common, you cannot change drainage patterns without a review.
But replacing a roof doesn't change drainage, does it? It's just swapping shingles.
In theory, yes. But the process of tearing off a roof creates debris. Thousands of pounds of asphalt, granules, old nails, and if you're on a slope, there's a risk of runoff.
So the town is worried about the mess washing into the creek.
Precisely. So before you lay a single shingle, the town might require you to install erosion controls.
Like what?
Silt fences, hay bales. You have to buy these barriers, stake them into the ground, and sometimes pay for an inspection just to verify they're installed correctly.
And I'm guessing silt fences aren't free.
Far from it. That entire erosion control package can add $1,000 to $3,000 to the bill before the ladder even comes off the truck.
That is a massive hidden cost.
It is. And here's the kicker. If one contractor ignores this rule to keep his price low and the other includes it, that transparent contractor looks $3,000 more expensive.
But if the cheap guy gets caught...
Or if it rains and debris washes into the wetlands, you, the homeowner, are the one paying the fine.
That's a crucial distinction. Okay, I have been waiting for this one. Spite access laws. Please tell me this is as dramatic as it sounds.
It is.
Is that a real legal term, or is that just contractor slang?
It's a bit of industry slang, but it refers to a very real legal situation regarding easements and trespasses. In Connecticut, you have laws that protect a contractor's right to access a property to do work.
Okay.
Essentially, a neighbor cannot legally, physically block a contractor from getting to your house.
So if I have a feud with my neighbor, they can't stand in the driveway and block the truck like a crossing guard.
Right. But here is the catch. Just because they can't block you doesn't mean they have to make it easy for you.
How so?
Think about our towns. Old, narrow streets, houses built 10 feet apart. Often, the only way to get a boom truck, that big crane that lifts the shingles near the house, is to encroach slightly on a neighbor's airspace or land.
And if that neighbor decides to exercise their rights...
If a neighbor says, stay off my grass or don't swing that boom over my fence, the contractor is stuck. They might have to park on the street.
So they can't use the crane?
Correct. Now, instead of booming the shingles up to the roof mechanically in 20 minutes, the crew has to hand carry 3,000 pounds of material up the driveway.
Oh, wow.
Stack it, and then hump it up a ladder, bundle by bundle on their shoulders.
That sounds exhausting just thinking about it.
It's exhausting, and it's incredibly slow. That effectively doubles the labor hours for the stocking phase. So if a contractor spots a difficult access situation, or sees an angry neighbor staring them down during the estimate, they are going to price that risk into the bid.
That is fascinating. It's a bad neighbor tax, essentially.
Effectively, yes.
Yeah,
And if you don't tell the contractor about the feud beforehand, and they find out on day one, expect an immediate change order.
Let's move up to the roof itself. We talked about the ice, but what about the shape of the roof? Connecticut houses, colonials, Victorians, they tend to be pointy.
Pointy is one way to put it. We call it pitch. And yes, New England architecture favors steep pitches, usually over a 6.12 slope.
6.12. Translate that for me.
It means for every 12 inches of horizontal length, the roof rises 6 inches vertically. Anything steeper than that is great for shedding snow, which is why we build them. But for a roofer, it's a nightmare to walk on.
So it becomes a safety issue.
It's a major safety cost. You can't just walk around like you're on a sidewalk. You need OSHA-compliant harnesses, ropes, and roof jacks.
What are roof jacks?
They're these metal brackets you nail in to create temporary footholds. You might even need full scaffolding.
And I imagine doing anything while strapped to a harness is slower.
Much slower. Think about it. Every time you need a new bundle of shingles, you have to unclip, move, reclip. A crew might tear off a flat ranch roof in 4 hours. Put that same crew on a steep Victorian, and it takes 2 days.
Wow.
Labor costs on these steep roofs jump 25 to 50% compared to a standard slope.
So if you're listening and you have that charming steep-roofed cottage, just know that charm costs extra.
Charm is always expensive.
What about the stuff we're actually nailing down? Asphalt versus metal. What's the verdict for this region?
Asphalt is still the king because of cost. You're looking at $350 to $750 per square foot. But here's an interesting nuance. Connecticut code and climate effectively drive everyone toward architectural shingles.
Those are the ones that look a bit textured, right? Not the flat ones.
Correct. The flat ones are called 3-tab. They're cheaper, but they are terrible in high winds and freeze-thaw cycles. They tend to crack and blow off. Most reputable contractors in CT won't even install them anymore.
Because of callbacks.
The callback rate is too high. Architectural shingles are thicker and laminated. They hold up.
And metal.
Metal is the forever option. It costs $8 to $12 a square foot, so nearly double, but it'll last 40 to 50 years. It sheds snow beautifully. But for most people, the budget dictates asphalt.
If we were to slice up the pie of where the money goes, what does that look like?
Materials are the biggest chunk, about 40 to 60%. That's your shingles, ice shield, nails. Labor is 25 to 35%, and the rest is disposal and permits.
I want to talk about that process, specifically the tear-off. I feel like people underestimate how violent that is.
It is a demolition site. There is no gentle way to remove a roof. You are using pitchforks and shovels to rip thousands of pounds of material off the deck. It is loud, it is messy, and it takes 1 to 2 days.
And this is where yard protection comes in.
Yes. A good quote includes magnetic sweeps for nails, plywood for driveways, tarps for landscaping. If a quote is suspiciously low, ask yourself, are they going to protect my hydrangeas? Because that labor costs money.
And once that old roof is off, that's when the gotchas appear.
Yeah. That is the moment of truth. You strip the shingles and you look at the wood deck underneath. If it's rotted, you can't nail to it. You have to replace it.
And that's not in the original quote.
It can't be because no one can see it yet. Rotted decking can add anywhere from $500 to $3,000 depending on how bad it is.
Any other gotchas?
Another big one in Connecticut is asbestos. If your home was built before 1980, there's a chance the old layers contain asbestos.
Right, old houses.
Testing costs a couple $100. If it comes back positive, remediation is a whole separate, expensive process. And dumpsters.
Dumpsters.
A vague bid might say disposal included, but a really shady one might not. Then suddenly there's a $500 to $1,000 dumpster fee tacked on at the end. Always check the fine print.
I want to pivot to something you mentioned in the pre-show notes that actually shocked me. You said Connecticut doesn't have a roofing license.
This is the registration versus license trap, and it is arguably the most important thing for a homeowner to understand. Connecticut does not have a specific trade license for roofing, like we do for electricians or plumbers.
Wait, hold on. I see trucks driving around all the time that say licensed and insured. Are you saying that's not true?
They are using the term very loosely. What they have is a home improvement registration. It's CGS Section 2338B. It is largely just a fee you pay to the Department of Consumer Protection.
So it's a tax.
Essentially. It does not require a competency test. It does not prove that the person knows how to install flashing or calculate ventilation.
That is Terrifying. So anyone can just pay the fee and call themselves a roofer.
Effectively, yes. And this puts the entire burden of vetting on you, the homeowner.
Yeah.
You can't just assume, oh, he has a license number. The state has vetted his skills. The state has just cashed his check.
So how do we actually protect ourselves if the state isn't doing it for us?
You have to independently verify their insurance. And I don't mean just glancing at a piece of paper they hand you.
Because it could be fake.
That certificate could be photoshopped, or the policy could have lapsed yesterday. You need to call the insurance agent listed on the certificate. You ask 2 questions.
Okay, what are they?
Is this policy active? And does it specifically cover roofing operations?
Why that second question?
Because general handyman insurance is much cheaper, but it often excludes roofing because of the height risk. If a handyman falls off your 2-story roof and he isn't covered for roofing,
Guess who gets sued?
the homeowner. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that verification is non-negotiable.
What about permits? I know people love to complain about permits. It's just the town wanting money.
People do complain, but permits are your safety net. Every town requires them. Usually $200 to $500. It takes 7 to 14 days.
Is there any temptation to just skip it? Don't tell the town, save $500.
Terrible idea. First, if you get caught, the fines are massive. But more importantly, think about when you sell the house.
The inspection.
Right. A sharp home inspector will pull the town file. If they see a brand new architectural roof on a house, but the last permit on file is from 1995, you have a major problem. It signals unpermitted work.
And that can kill a sale.
It can kill a sale or force you to pay for a retroactive inspection, which involves carrying parts of the roof up. Just don't skip the permit.
Got it. Okay, let's get practical. If I'm a listener sitting in my kitchen looking at a leak, what's the reality check on the budget?
For a typical 2,000 square foot home in Connecticut, you need to budget between $10,000 and $25,000.
That is still a huge range.
It is, but it accounts for the complexity. If you have a simple ranch, you're at the low end. If you have a steep colonial with a porch and difficult access, you're at the high end. And please ignore those national websites that say the average is $8,000.
Not for here.
Not for here.
Yep.
In Connecticut, costs run 15 to 30% higher than the national average because of everything we just discussed.
What about timing? Is there a best time to buy a roof?
There is a hack here. The peak season is June through September. Everyone wants their roof done when it's sunny. You pay a premium for that demand.
When do we book?
The shoulder seasons.
Yeah.
Late April and May or late October. Contractors are either ramping up or trying to squeeze in one last job before winter. You can often negotiate.
Or book even earlier.
Or consult in February or March. While there's still snow on the ground, call them when the phone isn't ringing. Lock in a spring date while their calendar's empty. You beat the rush, and you often lock in pricing before the spring material hikes hit.
That is smart. And when we are actually sitting down with these 3 quotes, the 12, the 25, and the middle one, what's the one specific thing we should look for?
Demand an itemized breakdown. Do not accept a lump sum project total. Ask specifically, where is the line item for frost protection on the porch?
And what else?
And how many feet of ice shield are you quoting?
I love that. It shows you know what you're talking about.
It changes the dynamic instantly. If they stammer or say, oh, don't worry, we do everything to code, but they can't show you the math, that is a massive red flag. A pro will be able to point to line 14 and say, here is your 600 square feet of ice shield.
Also, payment terms.
Never do cash-only deals. 0 paper trail. And never pay more than 10 to 25% up front. If a contractor asks for 50% down, they might be using your money to finish their last job.
Solid advice. Okay, let's wrap this up. We started with a mystery. Why does a roof cost so much here?
And the answer is that a roof in Connecticut isn't just a cosmetic upgrade. It's a complex construction project. It involves thermodynamics, dealing with that frost line and ice dams. It involves law navigating zoning and neighbor access. And it involves high-stakes safety.
So that $12,000 quote versus the $25,000 quote.
The $12,000 quote is likely ignoring the state codes. They're quoting you a roof for Georgia. They might be skipping the ice shield, ignoring the frost line, or planning to hit you with huge change orders once the roof is open.
And the $25,000 quote?
That's the contractor who is accounting for the Connecticut reality.
It's the difference between buying a sticker for your house and buying a shield.
Precisely. And if you try to put a Georgia roof on a Connecticut house, winter's going to win every time.
That is a great place to leave it. We often look at a roof as just a lid on a house, but in this climate, it really is a complex environmental shield.
Absolutely. If a quote looks too good to be true, it's probably because they're betting against the weather. And the weather always wins, eventually.
Thanks for breaking it all down for us.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, good luck with those quotes. Check those insurance certificates and stay warm. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.